How's it going?
Hello, darling. Just trying to get rid of all this. We there? Hello, love. Otis is here for a quick one.
Hello, Otis. How you going? I'm good, thanks. I'm all good. Yeah.
You're a big boy.
Turn into a full-time podcast.
You really have. I've been checking you out.
What else is there to do?
Yeah, that's true.
If I just sat around at home with Lansley, we'd just kill each other. So, I spend all my time in my studio alone in Tileyard now. So I quite like it, actually. I've never done that before. Being completely alone and self-focused, It's quite nice. How are you anyway?
Still holding on to some form of sanity.
Right.
Yeah. No, we're fine. I've had the good things about it are that I'm never at home normally. I'm always on flights and away. And it's actually been very nice to have a year at home. But, obviously not performing and having no income and all of that, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, we had 40-odd gigs cancelled last year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I don't know. I've tried not to be negative, but I think realistically, it's going to be another year.
Yeah, before it takes back. As you know, most of my gigs are in Italy, and they're going to be opening up earlier than us, like they did last year too. It's whether I can get over there and whether these 24-hour COVID tests you've had to have negative test before you can enter a theatre. But how the hell do you do that?
What? Is that what they're saying? Oh shit!
Yeah. So it's quite complicated.
I went to the Fenice.
Yeah.
In April, and they got this new regime where they had the performers. They'd taken all the stall seats out and put the performers where the stalls were, and put the audience on the stage and in the boxes. And it was only obviously socially distanced, and there was only 150 people allowed in.
Yes.
And yeah, the economic model. I mean, you can't make it work. It's not even an opera can work.
No.
Also, it sounded terrible because all the whole place is designed to have human beings in it.
Yeah.
So
that sound.
It sounded like an IKEA warehouse. It didn't really work. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's enough of the moaning. We're both very positive people, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And I've got in heavily into it because when I split up with David, I went to the Chelsea School of Art and I studied interior design. So with this new, because we'd only just moved in when lockdown, only a few months before. So I've been having a great time on a sewing machine or wallpapering and doing outrageous things to our house. So
brilliant.
I do.
Yeah, I love that idea. You should do a TV program. In fact, you should be on TV full stop, actually, I think. You get your agent onto it. Never mind all this jazz bollocks.
Yes.
You'd be skint if it wasn't for your fantastic career in jazz. I know that. Like me. Well, I'm not skint, but anyway, let's start this properly then. I mean, I like all this chit chat at the start, which is kind of
this week reconnect.
Yeah, because we haven't seen each other for ages in the flesh.
We haven't, darling. We haven't. Do you remember that lovely time that you and Lansley were in Venice when we were doing a gig in Venice? And
do you remember that?
Right.
That was great. Oh my God. All right, just a bit more personal stuff before we start.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, I sold my place in Venice because we needed the money for
school fees,
education and stuff like that. But we are now downsizing our place in Primrose Hill.
Yes.
So we're just in the process of having 1 million viewings every day. It's really irritating. But anyway, that's going to happen hopefully in the next couple of months. And as soon as the second I do that and the money's in the bank, I've got my eye on buying a new place in Venice. So I know where I want to live. It's on the south side of the Giudecca.
Yeah.
The really peaceful views overlooking the south side of the lagoon.
Yeah.
but you're only like 150 meters away.
Is that the opposite side to where you were?
Yeah, well, kind of. It's a bit further down in the middle near the Plank the boat stop.
Yeah.
And if you walk down that way, sorry, this is people who don't know Venice will think this is very strange. But anyway, if you near the Plank boat stop on the Giudecca, if you walk down down there towards the south side of the island, there's a development called there used to be a Youngens watch factory. It's like a kind, one of those urban redevelopments of warehouses, and it's all super modern and air conditioned and beautiful and cheap compared to London.
Yes.
You can get a 100 square meter apartment for like €500,000. Yeah. That might sound like an awful lot of money, but if you try to get that in central London, you're looking at 3 times that amount minimum. So anyway,
is this part of the podcast, by the way? Or is
it said? Yeah.
I was going to say, because Brexit has very definitely ruined any kind of touring, and 90% of my earnings are in Italy.
Yeah.
I might have to in the future consider living there.
Well, the great thing is we saw this particular perfect storm coming over the horizon, and we managed to get all of us get Irish passports. So me and Lansley and Eleanor and Gabriel have all got Irish passports now. So that really helped.
Wonderful.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, let's start. Let's start with Italy, because we both love Italy so much. We've got so many things in common, me and you.
We go back a long, long way.
Yeah, I know. We don't have to. We don't have to do this interview in chronological order. I'm a bit bored with all that. So let's start with Italy and our mutual love. How did that all start for you?
Well, for me, when I went to drama school and training to be an actress, and I left before the end of, before the time when you get your agent and you're sold to the National Theatre and the RSC. I left with a big chip on my shoulder, and I joined an Italian rock band. I answered an ad was in the Melody Maker, and it was in the Stage, because this Italian band had a deal with Atlantic Records, and they needed an English or American Janis Joplin type singer.
Right.
And I found myself, I had no musical training whatsoever. I'd never studied music at school or anything, but it appealed to me. I loved Janis Joplin. So I moved over, not speaking any Italian, and I lived in Fiesole initially, just outside of Florence. And then I found it too lonely, because the drummer whose house it was like a Biedermeinhof retreat, and he was a hermit. He didn't get up till the night, and he spoke no English. I had no money, and didn't speak language, so it was like I was felt trapped. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I then moved into the centre of Florence to live with, I'd met a friend by that point, and she lived in Via Santo Spirito. So we're talking right bang.
Yeah.
A hug. And that suited me much more. So that was my first introduction to Italy. And I did it on one of those 1-year cardboard passports, because I'd never been abroad before then.
Shit. We're moving house, and I've got boxes of stuff everywhere, and I've been going through all my old stuff, and I found one of those cardboard passports. I forgot all about it. They're ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'd gone on, just on this 1-year passport, and then we recorded, we toured. Just before one of the concerts in this Biedermeinhof type retreat, it was a circular iron staircase, and I tripped up it and damaged my knee.
Shit. And
because they had to go and start touring, what they did was take me along to hospital, where it was just plastered up. It wasn't looked at what was wrong. It was plastered up. So I developed it kind of led to me doing what my band called the constipated octopus dance. Totally straight, stiff leg. And I had to dance with it. And I kind of danced like that ever since.
That's pretty good.
But but I had to tour with this sort of damaged knee. And then I think after about 3 or 4 months, I really missed home. And I'd come from a pretty dysfunctional family, and I think I told you years ago that my dad, when I was 17, went to prison, and he was just coming out of prison. And so I went back home, and yeah. And so, it was, and that was probably another reason why I didn't complete drama school. I had a huge chip on my shoulder. It was a very weird last part of my teens. And at drama school, I felt that everyone was the son and daughter of somebody famous, and I was the daughter of someone inside. But so that was the beginning of my love for Italy. And then I went back. The next time I go back is with the Communards, with the #1 hit. So that was a few years. How many years later would that be? 6 years later.
Right.
But that was huge. And then just before you and I worked together again, I had been asked to take part in to take part before that for my first solo tour, because I'd signed to Jive Records after the Communards. And for the first solo tour, I supported Simply Red around Europe.
That's a lot of red hair going on there.
And I'm sure that's why I got the gig. So I was redhead. And in Italy, they treated, and like the rest of Europe, they treated me like a double bill. They thought I must be Mick's sister. And I had the most fantastic press, not like a support would normally have.
Much better looking, I have to say.
Thank you, darling. But it did help open the doors for me in Italy. And that particular year, I won the keys to the city of Verona, because I played in the amphitheatre. You were there as well.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And part of my award for that was this freedom of the city. But unfortunately, I didn't realise, I was too busy that whole year promoting. I didn't realise it was 1 year later.
Oh, no.
And by the time I wanted to cash it in, it was gone. It was
oh my goodness! But what a fantastic honour!
Yeah, a wonderful honour, and to play as you did.
Oh my God!
In the arena, that's what a history!
It's mental, that place. There's I saw what did I see? I saw Franco Zeffirelli's production of Aida there. Now this is all a bit highfalutin for maybe some of our podcast listeners, but I love opera, so I make no apologies. And this is one of the most amazing opera auditoria in the world. And Franco Zeffirelli started the entire show. The opening scene had about 150 people on stage, plus donkeys, plus dogs, plus everybody in costume. It was completely crazy ass shit. And anyway, I love Verona. And by the way, this is just an informal aside. Have you ever been to a restaurant called La Bottega del Vino in Verona? It's really famous.
Has it got this unbelievable wine vault?
Yes. Yeah. It's got a wine list which is like it's like something out of Harry Potter. It's about 2 inches thick and leather bound.
And do you know, I think I've had some of the best food I've ever had there.
Oh, well, not just the food. It's got the best Italian wine cellar in the world.
Yes.
And the week before I first went there, I was introduced by a friend of mine from Venice. The week before I went there, he knew Carlo, my friend Carlo, who lived in Venice, knew the sommelier there. And in the basement where the original wine cellars are, where they keep all this shit, they have a private dining room for about, I don't know, a dozen people. And he said the 2 weeks previously, they'd had Prince Philip and his crew, and separately, Bill Gates and his top executives. It obviously is like one of those kind of Bilderberg things, right? They had bottles of wine that were bricked up in the walls of a farmhouse nearby to hide them from the Nazis in the Second World War. The last bottles of a viniculture which now no longer exists, of a grape that no longer exists, this is from 1943, and they got discovered like 20 years later when they were doing some renovations. These bottles they cost like £20,000 a bottle, but they've not re-decanted them or anything. So I said, what happens if they're corked? Because they probably are at that point. He said, oh, you buy the risk, he says.
Yeah.
I think you've got to have an awful lot of money to buy 20 grand's worth of wine for one, and buy the risk in case it's not even drinkable. That's just showing off, isn't it? But they also had 1930s bottles of brandy and whiskey, really rare stuff, and also some of the first bottles ever made of Penfolds, which is the most famous Australian Chardonnay from the 60s when they first started producing it, and they were like £15,000 a bottle. I'm going, what? And then they had like €10 bottles, right, as well. I love Italy so much.
Yes, so do I.
I miss it.
Goodness of Italy. Yes, I miss it terribly. I mean, normally, last year I'm normally on a flight 4 times a week.
I know.
And it's been so bizarre to not have that in my life.
I mean, I follow, it sounds like a stalker, it's not meant to be. Because you're my friend, I do follow your activities on Facebook, and I'm in constant awe of your work online with your social media. I don't know if you have anybody to help you with that, but you work that shit. You're an inspiration, not only in terms of your positivity and your talent, but just your sheer stickability and intent to do good work all the time. I mean, like James Brown used to say, I'm the hardest working man in show business. Well, I think you are right up there for the hardest working woman in show business.
Oh, thank you, darling. I love people. I love connecting with people. I am one of those people that after a concert spends at least an hour talking to my audience. Yeah. And a lot of my audience have become friends. There are some great people out there. Yeah. And a lot of my audience that became friends have educated me in music and politics and just life. So I'm very enriched by that. But Facebook is a way of, for me, it's a way of being in connect with friends and fans.
Yeah.
And I do care. I am interested in people. It is a genuine thing.
Me too. Yeah.
I know you are. I know we're both people luckily with big open hearts.
Yeah.
I also come from that world of sharing. Not everyone in the music business does, but I have, I've been very fortunate that even though I had a very troubled childhood and teenagehood and, haven't had an easy road, I have been very privileged. I mean, I did have a #1 hit when I was 26 years old. I did travel the world. I did get to know what that was about. I was able to, before the record industry imploded, I was able to get a deal and then I was eventually able to set up my own label. So that's very privileged. I might not earn lots of money. I might not, be sitting incredibly comfortably. But in a way, when you're not, I have noticed that you do some of your best work because you are still connected.
You're connected, so motivated.
You're motivated and you can't do a tour unless you've got product. How do you find the money to make that album? How do you, what bartering do you do? What can you do for a friend so they can play something on your album? And that keeps it all fresh and
pro quo, as they call it, don't they?
Pro quo. And luckily, because I like to share. I have a lot of young people coming to me for contacts, for advice. I love that. I love to pass it on. I am not one of those people that go, no, that's mine. You go and find that out for yourself.
Yeah.
I like to pass that on, especially if someone's properly interested. And if they track me down, it means that they know what I stand for.
Yeah.
I'm about. So already, it's a win.
On that subject, are you interested? You know that I'm principal of Talliard Education now, and we run Master's
That's brilliant. And you're just involving wonderful Richard.
Yeah. Oh, he's great.
He's fantastic, and he's a dear friend.
I've just done a podcast with him actually, but we just get on like a house on fire. I mean, who wouldn't? He's such a lovely guy, isn't he?
But he's also so witty. And
Richard Strange, for the audience who's not aware, is an ex-Doctors of Madness who were a big influence on me when I was growing up. Anyway, carry on, sorry.
But yeah, no, you were talking about.
Oh yeah, I know. I was going to say, because I do all this education stuff, I do a lot of lecturing now, and I've always been interested in knowledge sharing,
Yes,
and stuff in general, and that's probably why they asked me to do this job. And I've become ensnared, I'd call it, in the world of helping young people. I mean, it started out as something I thought, oh, do I have time to do this? You know, I'm getting paid to do it, obviously. But you know, can I dedicate enough energy to it to help them? Because they need help. Young people need help.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in this time. What a year for them. If we haven't had a tough time.
It's humbling.
Oh, it really is. It really is. You know, I've got a brother with triplets, 18-year-old triplets, and they're wondering what the hell is happening to their life.
Yeah. I mean, I lost my brother to COVID last year.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, in December. It was awful. It was. I don't want to go into it, but for anybody who says it's all exaggerated, I can assure you it's not. But anyway, getting back to the education thing, I was going to say to you, I would like to bring you in to Tileyard, either on Zoom or hopefully in the flesh at some point in the future, to share your experience with the young people from point of view of performance, but also songwriting, positivity. I mean, I couldn't think of a much better life coach for people who are looking to make the best out of what essentially started out for you as not
accident.
Yeah. But I'm always trying to inspire my students in a time of conceptual difficulty like this, to go, no matter what the adversity is, you can get through it, and with a positive frame of mind.
Yeah.
And I think you're a great example. So anyway, offline,
I'd be honoured.
Offline, I will talk to you about this separately, because I think
that's a yes from me.
Oh, excellent. You see, the default is yes, listeners. You know, if it proves to be a nightmare, then obviously you've got to reassess. But I don't think this would be. Let's talk about the Communards.
Yeah.
Tell me how that came about.
Well, that was the first drama college I went to in Stratford-on-Avon, which is where the time I first met you.
Yeah.
Because I was my boyfriend then was sharing a flat with Ian Reddington, one of your dear friends. My dear friend too.
Redding.
You've known him forever.
Yeah.
And so I was at drama college there, and at this point, this is when my dad had gone to prison, and it was a course that was my introduction to socialism, because the guy who ran the course was the leading authority on Bertolt Brecht in the country.
Right.
That spoke to me. It's all about alienation, and I felt incredibly alienated by society, because I was treated. My school had not known how to deal with a family whose father had gone to prison, and so we all felt alienation. So anyway, that kind of spoke to me, and then a few years after me, one of my brothers, I've got 6, went and did the same course, and Richard Coles was in his year, and they became friends. So I knew Richard when he was a young teenager, and I was sort of starting to do all sorts of interesting things musically in London, and I got very involved. I was in a wonderful band, 25-piece big band, political big band called the Happy End.
Right.
And we did everything from, we did a lot of Brecht music, but we did Irish political music. We did a whole tribute to Mao Zedong called Mao Zedong in Cheek.
Yeah.
The whole Chinese section. We did Civil War music. You know, it was a brilliant, brilliant band. And we did a couple of albums for Cooking Vinyl. And it was a brilliant point in my life for friendship and for politics and for music. We made politics swing. But
Right, let's talk about politics.
what we
Oh, sorry.
no,
No,
what we did get involved with was the miners' strike,
yes.
and Jimmy and Richard kind of connected at the end of Bronski Beat. Richard joined to play sax sort of towards the end of Bronski Beat. They got very heavily involved with the miners' strike in their way. I, with a happy end, we connected with Kay Sutcliffe, who was a Kent miner's wife, and she wrote this brilliant lyrics. And we recorded it and turned it into a song, which became the anthem of the miners' strike, Cold Nut Dole. And so we did hundreds of miners' benefits that year. We were going all over the country. And Richard, before that, I'd been in a band called The Republic, which had been an African Caribbean Latin band. And one of the singles did really well in the gay clubs. And I was singing in a mock operatic voice. My spies are in position around your house, with this kind of Middle Eastern dance beat. It was really weird. And apparently, when Richard and Jimmy met and Richard started to tell Jimmy about me, he said, "Oh no, she's a man. It's a man singing that." So what happened was Richard brought Jimmy along to see me at this miners' benefit to prove to him that I was a woman.
Wow.
And we then met through this brilliant situation, the miners' strike that we were both heavily involved with. And we laughed at the fact that, he was a petite, red-headed man with a high voice, and I was a very tall, red-headed woman with a low voice. Yeah. And we just really clicked. And he'd just formed the Communards. I think they had just recorded You're My World, their first single. But they were just sort of wondering what to do. And Jimmy said, "Well, we ought to do something together." And I said, "Well, look, I'm in Brixton." And he said, "There's a gay the word bookshop charity event they've been asked to do at the Fridge, across the road to where I lived.
Yeah.
Would you do that with me?" And I said, "Yeah." And we couldn't think, well, they were busy promoting You're My World. So there was no time to actually get together and rehearse anything for it. So I was thinking, I can't cope with that. So I sent this idea I must have rung him up and said, "What about the two of us duet Billie Holiday's Lover Man? Because it's going to be so camp, the two of us arguing over the same guy."
Yeah,
and sort of that. And that's what we did on stage at the Fridge with this wonderfully camp audience who thought this was wonderful, Jimmy and I camping it up on stage. Record company, London Records, was in the audience. Suddenly I'm asked to go to America to record the album with them. They saw the magic.
Yes.
They saw how good we were together. And that's how it happened, just utterly by accident.
I have to say that I love the Communards, number one, but and I love you, of course. But it's just turned into a lovey fest, isn't it? Just realised. But I am an enormous fan of Jimmy. I think
wonderful man.
He's an incredible advocate for LGBT stuff.
Yes.
But right from the very outset, he's a socialist, which you and I both are.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about socialism in a minute because I've got my soapbox out and I'm about to. I finally found somebody I can completely know who would relate to what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
And
what can I say about Jimmy? He reached politics all the way through.
Yeah.
He's true. I mean, he lives not far from me in Brighton because I'm down here in St Leonard's, down by the sea. And I get to perform with him 2 or 3 times a year when we do the Rewind festivals, and I sometimes see you at those. But you're often too busy doing your other huge concerts somewhere else. So it's lovely to reconnect. He and I didn't actually see each other for probably about 20 years.
Oh.
And then first reconnected when he asked me for his, to perform in Brighton with him. And we actually saw each other for the first time on stage in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it was electric. We were right back there, except I need two knee replacements. So I tried. I did do all the dance. Afterwards, I couldn't walk. But his energy, and he looks the same because he's always been a vegetarian. He's always cycled, so he's still incredibly lean, fit. He always had the flat top, so having no hair looks the same. And he's a very vital man and a lovely human being, a lovely friend.
I think I saw them perform with his new band.
Yeah.
And to me, because he's got obviously some younger people in the band now, and the energy that was being given off from the stage, not just by his performance, but by it was obviously a highly collaborative dude, isn't he? He's a man who believes in the collective, always, and the energy coming off that stage. I just thought it felt like this was a new band.
Yeah,
I know it's in the Rewind Festival, but it just felt so vital and amazing. And I never got to see you guys live.
His voice felt incredible.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I might try and contact him and get him on the podcast. He just reminded me. So politics, right? Here we go. Do you know, I've come to a point after all the shit that's happened in the last few years where I'm going, can I deal with the opprobrium that I draw whenever I stand up for what I believe is right? And from time to time, I've weakened and just gone, look, I just don't want to deal with it at this point in my life. I've got other things. It's taking too much energy. And that's why I've not really mentioned anything. People who know me, we don't need that fascist screw thing and stuff. Obviously, a lot of our fans listen to this, but you'd be amazed how many people who like M17, which I find astonishing, are Tories. It just blows my fucking mind completely. How
we've got to the point, my husband and I, where we were talking about this on our dog walk, because that's what's keeping us sane. Every morning we walk on the beach when the tide is out, often when there's no one there and it's dark. But we were saying that we've got to the point where if a Tory MP dared to knock at our door, we wouldn't know whether we could hold ourselves back.
Exactly. Yeah, let's say, I mean, we were both part of Red Wedge in the 80s, which we haven't mentioned yet. And going back to the miners' strike, I produced a miners' strike record with Paul Weller, with various other people who were involved in that, and that was a nice thing to do. And obviously, I come from a family of steel workers, as does Glenn, and I actually saw the stuff that went on prior to Orgreave, for instance. I was going up the M1 in a friend's car. Towards going to see my team play Sheffield Wednesday in Sheffield, and we got stopped on the motorway. It was a full-on block of the entire motorway, police. I'm going, what's going on here? And it turned out to be the Orgreave thing. And I'm going, are we now in a country where they can just stop people freely moving around? I mean, that seems quite mild now compared to what's going on, but yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
We have no leadership. It's appalling, and it's all about money and greed.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's all about the money. Follow the money. That will explain everything. Yeah. And I hate to say that the leadership of the Labour Party, I'm appalled.
Yeah.
Because he's my MP. I actually, he was spouting all this like I'm best buddies with Jeremy Corbyn. And they might have identical views, but we respect each other and blah blah blah. So I actually did a DJ gig for him when he was filmed, and I got somebody to film it for him, and as a favour, did it before he got elected. And as soon as the second he got elected, he's just turned into a complete arsehole. What the fuck?
They are so divided, but at a time where the opposition party should be at its strongest and going for the throat again and again and again. There's nothing.
Yeah. So the favourite thing is now is not the time. Well, if now is not the time, when is the time? That's
not in our lifetime.
No, it's a fallacious argument. So anyway, this is another reason why I'm buying a place in Venice, because I think it's almost like Plague Island, isn't it? It's like, but it's also going to become, the UK, I fear, is going to become just a casino capitalist playground. And, central London, for instance, the process has been happening for quite a while. Central London is almost going to become like a gated community for rich people, So all the beautiful things like Soho is getting completely rinsed out now. Anyway, don't get me started. Let's move on to positive things.
Yes.
Tell me why, I can't remember this, but Me and Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
Why was that banned again?
So it was banned because I'd had my, first big success with the Communards.
Yeah.
We were, as Jimmy was, but as a band, we were known for fighting for gay rights. Yeah. We were very much there against Clause 28, and we were very involved with Terence Higgins Trust, and Jimmy was one of the first artists who properly came out. And
yeah, that's right.
Because Boy George and George Michael neither of them were out. Everybody knew George was gay, but like he was using that as a vehicle. And what was the question?
I've forgotten. We're just rambling now, aren't we? Good Lord. Well, we got to that. I can't remember what the question was either. Sorry, I've just been making some notes about the next question. So shall we just move on? Oh my God. No.
Great, darling.
Oh, no, never mind, eh? So, I know. Why was it banned, Me and Mrs. Jones?
Oh, I mean, it's sad, yeah. So, I then signed to, I was offered a lot of solo deals on the back of this #1 hit.
Yeah.
And I decided to go with Jive. And I wasn't a writer at this point. I'd never written a song in my life at that point. I just covered lots of great songs. And so because I'd met them on the Red Wedge tour, the Wonderful Madness, I became good friends with them. And I then was managed by their manager. And so they allowed me to, in fact, I used quite a few of them on the demos, but they allowed me to use their studio to demo some songs.
Right.
2 of which I quickly wrote with someone in the happy end. I think they were probably atrocious because, it's like picking up from being a 17-year-old A-level student. That's where I was at.
Yeah.
One of the songs that I'd sung to, one of my brothers was 14 years younger than me. So I had sung Me and Mrs. Jones to him to get him to sleep. And it's a song that I'd always loved.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I used that as one of the demo songs. Jive loved it. So I recorded it twice. I recorded it once in Minneapolis at Prince's studio with amazing jazz music.
Yeah.
Most of Dave Seinborn's band. And then the other one I recorded with some of the original musicians from New York. So there's a one soul version, one jazz version. And then what happened was, I think it was Mike Reed. I can't remember which. I think he was the DJ that decided that it had been okay to come out as a gay man, but nobody had come out as a gay woman.
Right.
This is 4 years before Katie Lang introduced her beautiful self, and everybody celebrated that. And it wasn't okay. They were terrified that I was coming out, because I didn't change the lyric to Me and Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Me and Mr. Jones. That doesn't work. The S makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd never thought that would cause a problem. I just sung it because it was a great song.
Yeah.
And they were terrified. Radio 1 seemed rather disturbed that I might be a glamorous lesbian coming out of the closet on the back of this song. So it was pulled.
Well, all right.
No, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, big band. No, everybody buys it. I was just removed. I suddenly didn't exist.
Yes. Guess who banned Fascist Groove Thing?
Mike Reed.
Mike Reed. Guess what he does now? Well, you know what he does now. He's the cultural advisor to the Brexit Party. There used to be the Brexit Party.
I didn't know that, but that's so fits.
And this is the funny bit. So Mike Reed is associated with. He turns up in the press tent at various Rewind gigs and 80s gigs, as because he works for Radio Reading or something, and or Radio Berkshire. That's it. And he comes over to me, bold as brass, and goes, "All right, Martyn, how you going?" I'm going, "You fucked me up, Mike. What the fuck was that all about?" He went, "Ha, oh, smashy nicey territory, right?"
Absolutely.
And I give him both barrels, and he just completely the skin of a rhino.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He only does the same thing again about 3 or 4 more times. He's going, "Oh, would you appear on my program? Would you do?" I'm going, "Mike, fuck off.
Have you forgotten our history?"
Either you've forgotten what happened, or anyway, Mike, if you're listening to this on the off chance, fuck off. Double fuck off because of Sarah as well. I didn't realise that. You're the cousin of Armistead Maupin. I didn't realise.
Yeah, so it was really interesting how that was found out. So during the year that my dad was dying, it was when I was pregnant with Otis, and I was in what was I in? Blues in the Night. I was at the Liverpool Everyman Theatre. I was there for 3 months, heavily pregnant. And Dad kept ringing. I didn't know if I was going to see him again. I was in this. And he kept ringing, telling me about our background, because he had married my mum. He came from a very wealthy family, married my mum, who was a working class girl, written out of a family. So I didn't know any of my cousins or any of the family. It was not something I knew anything about. So he told me that he was trying to sort of fill me in with a history that nobody else could give. And he said that his grandfather had left his grandmother. They were Christian Scientists, so they couldn't divorce.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Christian Scientists. It's a good job I didn't get to know them, eh?
Yeah.
But anyway, he ran off with grandmother's best friend, who was a suffragette, who they'd met through suffragists. Both being suffragettes. And she was an actress, and they ran off together, saying they were husband and wife, but he was a lot older than her.
Right.
And went and had this family in America. And that's Armistead. So Armistead is my father's cousin.
Wow.
So he's my second cousin once removed. And what happened was Dad, as he was dying, said, you told me about this whole family. And he told me, because they'd done a family tree, that it was Armistead. And I'd, of course, read all his books. I'd seen Tales of the City on HBO. And so I wrote to his publisher, thinking, this might be one of Dad's lies, because Dad didn't always tell the truth. And so I had to cover myself, saying, I've been led to believe.
Oh, yeah.
It is my cousin, and filled it in a little bit to the publisher. And then within an hour, I had an email back from Armistead saying, "You're right, a family tree's been done. How amazing is it that we are cousins?"
Wow.
Now, we had met, but not known we were cousins, at this Gaze the Word bookshop concert that I did with Jimmy, because he was there reading from his book, Tales of the Fallen Angel. My record label is called Fallen Angel.
Oh no.
Weird is that? We didn't know. I didn't know him then.
Oh, that's synchronicity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And Otis and I got to perform for him at the British Library for the launch of his last book.
That's great.
And he came to the launch of my last album. He's now living in London with his husband. Yeah, he's moved to London.
How amazing.
Yeah. And so it's wonderful, because his sister, Jane, she was a llama farmer in New Zealand.
I'll tell you who else is a llama farmer, Bananarama. No, I just made that up. Sounds nice. Bananarama llama farmer.
Well, when oh gosh, I'm sorry.
You're right off.
One of the senior moments, one of our most glorious, Ian McKellen. When Ian McKellen was doing Lord of the Rings, he stayed with Jane because of course they were filming in New Zealand, and he is Armisted's best friend, Ian McKellen. They're great friends. But Jane is the sister I never had, and what was great is we as adults chose each other, and that's a very different way to have a relative.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky with my family. I love them all, but I know a lot of people would have loved to have chosen their family. They've had the accident of birth thing.
I like you. I've got 6 brothers, and I love them all, and they're very different. One of them lives in the same town as me, which is fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
We Zoom each other and stay in contact. Family WhatsApp, and that's keeping us sort of connected.
Yeah,
I love this big extended family.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Right, we have got about a quarter of an hour left, I reckon. So, let's crack on. So, you did a thing with Peter Hamill, didn't you? The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes.
I love Peter Hamill.
He's fantastic. He came and sung at my you went to my wedding today.
Yeah.
He went sung. So he's extraordinary vocalist and songwriter, and he asked me to take part with Lena Lovett and with Andy Bell.
Yeah.
He'd written this opera and asked us all to perform within it, and it was fantastic. We were going to be performing it in in Barcelona, I think, in a palace in Barcelona, but I don't know. I think it's probably financially we couldn't quite make it happen. But the album was brilliant. Working with all of those singers, extraordinary. And then he and we found out that we worked really well together. So we did a couple of tracks together. But one was for this incredibly famous Japanese koto player. And what happens on this album is Peter and I are trading lines with this koto player, and you don't know which is Peter and which is
Wow.
we just glide so well into each other.
Yeah.
He's a glorious musician.
He's an amazing songwriter. I mean, those Van de Graaff Generator albums and his solo albums from the 70s and 80s, I still play them, and I just think some of those songs are the most deeply emotionally affecting things that I've ever listened to. And I tell you who else is a massive Peter Hamill fan is John Lydon. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
And if you listen to
Peter Gabriel is.
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel gets Peter to do all of his backing vocals for his album. They help each other with backing vocals.
I didn't know.
Because Peter Gabriel supported Van de Graaff Generator to start with, because in Italy, Van de Graaff Generator was huge.
Yeah.
And then that helped launch Peter's solo career there. And he became huge, obviously, everywhere all over the world. But he was, Genesis were very influenced by...
Wow, I didn't know that. But if you listen to John Lydon's voice, there is some Peter Hamill in there. That kind of rantiness that was part of the whole Van de Graaff Generator thing. Listen, for people who are listening to the podcast, if you're not familiar, if you just chucked the whole of prog rock in the bin because you think it's not trendy, don't. Number one, don't. Number two, go and listen to Van de Graaff Generator. Listen to the song Wondering.
Oh, yes.
Such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
But there's so many great songs that he's written. There's a great, my favourite album is probably Porn Hearts, ultimately, and Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. I love.
You're a proper fan, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I am. I really love all that shit.
Would you like to do a podcast with Peter?
I would. Oh, my God.
I'll collect you, darling.
Would you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. This is how it all works, you see, because I'm trying to keep the standard up, love.
Yes. You're doing very well.
We don't want any riff or raff doing. So, I keep getting nice emails from people saying, my God, these are amazing. Not because of me, but because of the guests that I'm getting. So I want to keep the standard as high as humanly possible, because I really believe that people need to have a kind of in-depth but informal exposure to people's potted histories. I know you're doing your autobiography. I'm doing mine at the moment.
Yes, I know. Well, you've I've done so many things. My goodness.
Well, if I was getting paid by name dropping, I think I'd be a millionaire already. I think the index will take a third of the book.
Yes. Oh, by the way, what was interesting was when I did a concert, not last year, the year before, and it was in, I think it was in Verona, actually. It was huge, took over the whole square. And it was the artist formerly known as Terence Trent D'Arby.
No, synonymous rare.
So we did a double bill. What was bizarre was Tim was playing with me, Tim Catsfield.
Right.
He played because he was working.
Yeah, he played on it. Yeah,
they didn't acknowledge each other. But I've become
funny old bugger, but he's still
quite good friends with him in a roundabout way.
Oh.
He's interesting. What a voice!
And his voice is still as good as ever.
Yeah.
But
he wrote some great songs. But I don't know him well, but I know him because of being part of the Italian scene. He's married to a very beautiful woman. They live in Milan. He's got a lovely family, and he's got another life, a new life, nothing to do with.
I've got an interesting story, which is a couple of years ago I was asked to curate or put together a bill for the main stage at this thing called Vintage at Goodwood with Wayne Hemingway, and it was, they were doing lots of unusual one-off kind of event. We performed but there were things like they were asking me to find unusual collaborations. So I was approached by a friend of mine. Say this was just after James Brown had died, and the JBs were looking for work, right? And I said, well, why don't we get JBs over and we'll get Terence to sing James's role. And I thought that would be like I had to be their moment, wouldn't it? Yeah, so I contacted him and asked him, and he sent me, I think it was a 15-page handwritten letter.
As to why he wasn't going to.
In the style of, it was almost like Samuel Pepys or something.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Very florid, purple prose. Saying, and I'll praise it for you, over my dead body, would I ever come back to the UK, let alone expose myself to these slings and arrows of outrageous critics, etc. So, no, he's never going to come back and do that, unfortunately, which is a pity. He's quite happy just having his little kind of cottage industry, releasing out.
Yeah, it works for him there. He's a happier man, I feel. Yeah.
Oh, that's fair enough. Okay, let's move on to there's so much stuff now. The stuff we did together with BEF was nice.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, the track that we did together, I thought you performed it magnificently, I have to say. In fact, that Dark album has proved to be quite prescient, given the current circumstances, didn't it? And so, listen to the BEF Musical Quality and Distinction Volume 3, which features Sarah Jane.
But I loved it when we performed live. I got to do Ball of Confusion.
Oh, that was great!
What a song that is!
It's a brilliant shot. It's right on, isn't it? And but the interesting thing was, I remember people coming up to me after that performance that you did, and they went. I mean, you completely upstaged everybody. I'm not in a bad way, but you completely just blew everybody away. You are a I mean, I know it's a cliche, and I'm looking at your press release here, and it says, "Leave your preconceptions at home." Begins one London critic's assessment of sensual singer-songwriter. Oh, that's nice. Sarah Jane Morris, who straddles rock, blues, jazz, and soul with a goosebump-raising 4-octave range that rumbles from the heels of her size 8 shoes to the tips of her flame-red mane. God, that's,
another reason why the press thought I was a man, size 8 feet, tall, without a voice. We meant that with going back when I was a number one with the Communards. Then News of the World did a piece making out that I'd as good as been a sex worker. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff. And then the Star the Star came, Daily Star, I think it was, either the Star or the Sun, made out that I was an operation job. And years later, based on this, the years later, when I was setting up my first website, my sax player, Mornington Lockett, was doing it for me because I wasn't part of this new revolution. It was I needed somebody else to do it, and he did all sorts of research by finding out, was this site, was it a fan site, and put my name in and found out where it went. And he rang me up and he said, Sarah, I need you to get a stiff drink. I need you to sit down and I'm going to send you something. Now, what happened was, in the olden days of the beginning of websites and things and the internet, things took a long time to load up. So you put in Sarah Jane Morris, I think it was a neophyte or something.
Yeah.
And you saw the red hair gradually came out, and then you saw the face gradually came in. But it wasn't my face, but it was neither male nor female. And then you read on, and this was someone that was in the process of having a sex change and was becoming me. Well, because Mornington wrote to them and said, is your new life as Sarah Jane Morris anything to do with the singer Sarah Jane Morris and the Communards? And they got back and said, I do hope she doesn't mind, but yes, she's the woman I'm hoping to become.
Right, okay. That's pretty strange. Wow, okay.
You weren't expecting that, were you, Martyn?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, interesting. It's quite kind of micro-ambitional. That's what I'd call it.
I mean, huge thing having a sex change. I've got many friends who've had them. I think it's incredibly brave. It's to be celebrated. And so I took it. Initially, I was shocked, thinking, oh, God, all the press are going to think it's true now that I was a man that became a woman. But then I sort of started to use it, because one of my songs, and you produced this one, that I wrote for the TV series, The Men's Room, it's a song called I Am a Woman. And so I used to tell this story before it. So you don't know whether I'm the real one or and so I was able to sort of play about with it.
Yeah, in the world of pop music, it's never been a bad thing to be sexually ambivalent, is it? I mean, look at Bowie, look at, even Elton John. Anyway, it's that kind of sexual ambivalence is not a bad thing, even if it's not real. I mean, we're kind of ahead of the curve. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up shortly, but I've got a lot of stuff to get through. So first of all, for the stuff that I'm not going to cover, can you plug your website? What's the best way to the
best way to see me is through www.sarahjanemorris.com.
Right.
And I've also got my own YouTube channel, which is Sarah Jane Morris. And I've been doing through this lockdown with my son, who's a singer-songwriter, because he ended up having to live with us for this year because his business had just folded and he was about to go and live in Italy when this all happened. Right. And so he and I have done 3 lockdown concerts together.
Oh, yeah.
Which we streamed, which has been lovely. The first one we raised, I think we raised $3,000 for the food bank here.
Oh, brilliant!
We're going to be doing another one at the end of Feb together here, and that's been a wonderful thing to explore together. Yep. But what I also did and would have been sort of promoting all of last year was I did an album about the wonderful John Martyn. Now, that I do on your album. The album is called I Don't Want to Know About Evil.
Yeah,
and
it's brilliant, brother.
It's thank you. Well, because I've become a social comment songwriter. That's what I've fallen into becoming over these years. I write the human story, but when you write about these terrible things that are happening in the world, you absorb it. And I needed a break. I'd written a song for Layla Hussein's FGM campaign. I wrote a song for the stolen Nigerian girls. I wrote a song about honor killings, a song about the murder of sex workers. You absorb these stories, and I needed a break. So I thought I need to maybe pay tribute to somebody. And I thought, well, I've been singing I Don't Want to Know About Evil as an encore since 1997 was when I first recorded it. And I thought, he died 10 years ago. He was 60, which is what I was becoming. And he died well before his time. And he didn't have the kind of fame that he deserved. And also, because he was a baritone, and I'm a baritone, I wouldn't have to change key, but I could visit it and change the music and make it my own, because you don't cover a song unless you claim it. So I've got one of the best guitarists around, Tony Remy, and I asked him if he would become part of this project. So what we did is we chose 12 of John's songs, and we totally changed them, and we did a kind of bartering thing where we involved a lot of our wonderful friends. And I had some string arrangements from Sally from the Communards. We have Jason Rebello. We have a lovely assortment of musicians. But then we wanted to take it one step further. And so I'd been doing a few benefits with my friend Mark Thomas, the political comedian.
Love him.
And he's a wonderful guy. And he's a lover of jazz. And we were talking about it. And I was saying, would you be interested in directing this if we try and turn this into a multimedia show? And he said, yes. I got my brother involved, who's a filmmaker, Rod Morris. And we went around the country and we filmed friends of John Martyn's, family members, fellow musicians that worked with him. And then with Mark, we wrote a script. And then we turned it into a show. We took this to the Edinburgh Festival, not this last year, but the year before. And we got an Edinburgh Award. So
Great.
That was what we would have been touring all of this last year.
Oh, shit.
We pressed up 100 limited edition double vinyl, and on it, I'm doing a duet of May You Never with the wonderful Eddie Reader, who I used to be in a band with called the Fufu and Light Soup, a Ghanaian band, before both of our careers took off. And then we were in a band called the Trio of Enormous Love with Jules Holland. So it was Ian Shaw, Eddie Reader, and myself. Right. We'd take the lead and the others would do the backing vocals. You couldn't get better backing vocals than this. My God. So that was great. So she'd worked with John. So what we did is, my husband, who's an artist, Mark, he started doing original drawings of John on the white album covers. So we're selling these original works of art with the double vinyl. But obviously I'd have sold the lot had I been on tour.
Yeah.
And I need to try and sell them through my online concerts.
It'll all happen again.
It will all happen again.
It'll all happen again. Right, I'm just going to sum up now. Firstly, you performed at our wedding.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for that. It was beautiful. She sang.
Well, you do have the best wife, Lindsay.
She's great, Lindsay.
She's fantastic.
First time ever I saw your face, which is one of my favourite ever songs, and everybody in the church was crying.
And it's written by the Ewan McCall, who was the father of my two guitarists, Callum and Neil McCall.
Sure.
And of course, was the father of Kirsty, who I was doing some writing with, leading up to her very unfortunate death.
Yeah.
What a talent!
What talent! Let's pay tribute to
just breaking through again.
Oh no!
And another redhead.
Another redhead, yeah.
Great.
And me and you did an album together called Heaven, which I still am very proud of. It's as part of my canon, and hopefully you are as well.
Absolutely.
So check that out. Yeah, check that out on Spotify as well. And where are we? What else have we got? Just wrote a note down here saying you are much loved, and therefore you are very, very rich in terms of experience. Everybody loves you, and that's what. It's not a coincidence that people want to collaborate with you, because you are an open-hearted, good person with good socialist values, communal values, which I think everybody needs to get back to that kind of...
Community is the most important thing now.
Yeah.
Becoming part of all sorts of groups where we're all trying to help each other, because there's so many artists down here, from filmmakers to musicians to writers, and we can try and keep our artistic communities together, but we need to help. Down in Hastings, we've got an unemployment problem, we've got a real drug problem, we have a refugee problem. It's real life here.
Yeah.
It's Dalston by the sea, Hastings.
Yeah, I know that.
And it's, as a songwriter, I have a lot to feed into, yeah, no, I have an enormous amount of love back from my audience. It's a circle, isn't it? Music,
Yeah,
out and comes back.
absolutely. All right, we always end up on every podcast, if you've listened to any of them or got to the end of any of them, with some daft kind of smash hits type questions, which always used to make me laugh when we got them back in the 80s. So, what's your favourite film? Only one of them.
One of my favourite films, Wings of Desire, Wim Wenders.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, okay. Favourite book?
Favourite book, anything and everything by Zola and by Toni Morrison.
So interesting. Okay. Your favourite visual artist?
My favourite visual artist, I had to say my husband, don't I? That concert. It's my favourite living.
Who's Brand Morris. That's funny.
I love favourite visual artist. Vuya.
Okay. Wow. Okay, this is good. I'm going to compile all these together at one point.
Yeah.
I think you'd be quite interested to see the variation of.
If you saw my interior design, you would see that I was very influenced by Vuya. The clashing of patterns and colours and textures. Do you love you see the way I dress too?
Yeah, no.
Things I love, things that other people think wouldn't go together. I'm just going to show you this chair that I've just recently.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So I mean, all those different.
Yeah, you don't think it would work, but that is very you.
Yeah.
Are you going to start? Is this going to be a business then?
Well, who knows? I mean, we're all having to find different ways of making a living. One of the things my husband's doing, he's an artist, but we've been he's a huge band and Bob Dylan fan, and every situation, he has a Bob Dylan quote. And what we've been finding different bits of furniture, and he's painting them, but he's painting, so say for instance, at the moment he's working on a rocking chair, and he's got a lyric, it's a band song that very much features this rocking chair. So he's everything. He's writing the lyrics all over the chair, painting them. He's painting the band, the iconic picture. So we're trying to sort of, obviously we'll sell these to people who are huge Bob Dylan fans, but each piece of furniture will be related to a song.
I love that.
So that's another thing we're trying to do. We're just trying to think of ways of fund our art. Because you don't have to make a lot of money, but we want to still carry on doing what has to come out of us.
Well, from a personal perspective, I believe the future of commerce is probably more and more bespoke, individualistic pieces that are sold to people. It's becoming more feasible through the logistics of distribution and everything as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I've also considered things like, I have to pay for my studio. It's not cheap. And, should I offer my services as a producer to individuals if they have a particular vision, to do stuff? I don't know. It's weird. I can't quite wrap my mind around it at the moment, but we're all going to...
one of those people that can do anything.
Oh, no.
Anything you turn your mind to, you're a very bright man.
Oh, thank you.
You will find your way to do it.
Thanks, Best Jay. Okay, so, and the final thing is, I know you're a songwriter now. Do you have any kind of recording studio or anything?
So I can record at home, and obviously It's not to the standard.
No.
But I'm able to record vocals, and I've done lots of things during lockdown for other people. I've made 2 albums from here. So I've done 2 virtual albums, one with the wonderful Socialist Quartet who are in Naples, because I've been doing a project with them. It's a theatre project, but it's about the guy who murdered John Lennon and Mark Chapman. And so the stage, they play in very big places, but the stage is part prison, part field of rye.
Wow.
And we are doing all the songs of the Beatles. And because I'm a baritone, once again, they're very changed, and there's just strings and voice. So this project, I toured with them last year because Italy, because you can do huge outdoor concerts, I was able to still perform this. But now we've recorded the album, and we'll be doing that in Italy a great deal next year in And also the other album I virtually recorded is with an Italian producer called Papi. He's worked with Mario Biondi and a lot of different people. And he does things for Irma Records, Irma, IRMA, which I've recorded 3 albums for over the years. They're Bologna-based, very politically correct, tiny record company.
Nice.
So what we've done is we've taken 80s songs and changed them. So one of the songs I've done is Missing Everything But the Girl. I've done a Paul Weller song. I've done a Prefab Sprout. Now they were one of my favourite bands.
Yeah.
It's Paddy
McAloon.
What a writer. So I've done one of his. So I've taken these songs from the 80s, and it's quite jazz FM-y. But
listen, don't knock it. It's fine.
It's still music. It's still music. And I was part of the 80s, so I felt like that was...
I don't think you need to apologise for anything about what you've done in your career. I'm going to wrap it up now, but what a pleasure it's been, SJ. I know we could talk for a lot longer. I
look forward to being around your table with one of Leslie's meals.
Oh, my God.
Catching up. She's just the best. I've married a great cook too. I know I don't really time around as well. I've been very fortunate each time.
My favourite thing is her Irish stew, I have to say. That's the thing that gets me going.
Give her my big love.
Oh, I will, yeah. I'll let her know that it's part of the podcast. She actually is a big supporter of what I'm doing as well. So, yeah, that's it. We are going to put this out as soon as we can. I think in about 3 weeks' time. So that will be great. Thank you so much for your time, darling. I miss everyone, but I especially miss you and all my music friends. And oh well, never mind. We'll get there in the end, won't we?
Well, darling.
All right, darling. Love you.
Lovely to see you. Love you too.
Okay, bye.
And yes, no, I really am interested.
Oh yes, let's do the education thing.
Yeah,
I think you're perfect for it.
I would love to.
All right, darling.
Bye, darling.
Bye.
Bye.